Senate Republicans are not happy with the extreme debt left behind by relief bills. They insist on including the Trust Act in their next stimulus package. And that Trust Act is a Mitt Romney-Joe Manchin special, which expedites changes to Social Security by forcing a vote to cut or amend eligibility requirements for the program.
Great stuff. And we focused a lot on the GOP side. We also wanted to talk a lot about Democrats seem to be sort of missing in action here as well. So to dig into all of that and more, we have executive editor of the American Prospect and author of the new book, Monopolized, Dayen joins us now. Great to see you, David.
Good to see you, David.
Yeah, thanks.
So we have covered the GOP side of this. They, have control of the Senate and the White House. Obviously, they're sort of driving the train at this point. But what is the Democrat strategy? They seem to be completely absent from the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats decided on the CARES Act in March to let Mitch McConnell really write that bill. And then they came in at the end and tweaked it. And Nancy Pelosi swore up and down that that's not what was going to happen this time. In the next relief package, Democrats would get a say. And what they did was they passed a wish list bill called the HEROES Act, a $3.5 trillion bill, 2 months ago. Mitch McConnell promptly threw it in the trash. And all the negotiations this week have been among Republicans behind closed doors. And the exact same dynamic that we saw in March is setting up again. And, Democrats are saying pass the HEROES Act, but that's obviously not going to happen. Chuck Schumer says that whatever bill comes out of the Republican Senate White House process is DOA. But there's, it seems like we're still moving along that same timeline that we saw before. Where Mitch McConnell writes the bill in his office, and then Democrats get a chance to tweak it.
Yeah, and this is what fascinates me, David, is that in the Republican side, on the less deficit hawk position, there don't seem to be red lines or big priorities. Same thing on the Democratic side. I don't understand what is the actual priority of the Democratic caucus going into this negotiation. Does it even exist?
Well, I mean, when your priority is everything, your priority is nothing. So,
right.
They put together this bill that had 30 different things in it. There was no sort of coherent red line, as you said. I was on a call with the Congressional Progressive Caucus that said that they don't have any red lines for this bill. There's no sort of coherent strategy as to, okay, the economy is collapsing especially in these states where the virus is surging. This is what we need. I mean, they've talked about the $600 unemployment package extending through the end of the year. They've talked about extending the PPP, maybe for groups or businesses that have had severe revenue shortfalls, that they could get a second round of it. But there isn't sort of this is what we need to do sort of coherent practice there.
Mm-hmm. And what about, are there red lines in the other direction? So meanwhile, Republicans are putting all kinds of, in my view, insane things into this package, including the Trust Act, which Saga reported first, and you also have reported out, would provide a pathway to cut Social Security. That's their priority right now. They also have made a big priority of getting this corporate liability shield in there so that corporations could not be sued for negligence if their workers end up getting coronavirus through their own negligent acts. Are Democrats, have they come out and said that they are absolutely opposed to those things? What are their positions on some of those pieces?
Well, I mean, I wish I could tell you exactly where they're at with that, but I mean, they're certainly opposed to it. The question is, will they let that stop the whole bill? I mean, the momentum on these big bills seems to be there is a crisis and we have to do something. And whatever we can get from the Republican caucus that we can say that we did something is what we'll live with. That was the strategy on the CARES Act when they did get, this big boost to unemployment, but they lived with a $4.5 trillion Federal Reserve money cannon. So you kind of see that same dynamic coming in. Republicans have a very clear strategy. They want this liability release. For this alleged flood of lawsuits that is coming, which don't exist now. There's an analysis that I did that I linked to that was on the web last week showing that the number of cases so far for wrongful death or a wrongful infection are almost non-existent. So this is a non-problem that the Republicans are coming up with a solution for, but that might be the price to get this other stuff, and it seems like Democrats are satisfied with taking that step.
Yeah, I mean, this is what fascinates me too, David, and you could talk more about this, the way that these bills come together, is that the people who are the most organized seem to just be the deficit hawks, and it seems to be people who want to cut Social Security and who have like real red lines. Why is it, from your point of view, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, they're irrelevant in this entire discussion? Why is that?
Well, I remember Tim Geithner saying in 2009, when he was Treasury Secretary, he made a statement that plan beats no plan. And so if you actually have a plan of what you want to do, you have a better shot of getting that enacted than if you kind of have, in the case of Democrats, 30 different plans that you're just sort of running through, and you're not fully committed to any single one of them necessarily. So that's, I think, overall the problem. It's a problem of strategy, and it's a problem of principle, really. What is it that you think the American people need at this time? Democrats traditionally operate in this kind of siloed nature where they pull from environmental groups and labor groups and healthcare groups and all of these different places, and they end up with this kind of mush, this everything set of bills, and that is not a good strategy when you're trying, you're under the gun, you need to get something done.
Yeah, well, and one person who could potentially focus them is the, purported leader of the party at this point, Joe Biden. And I couldn't tell you what his priorities for this thing are either. I mean, here he is. He wants to be president of the United States. He's saying that he's going to be the next FDR. But I haven't seen him driving the discussion here or laying out priorities or how he would handle it either.
Actually, Biden did lay out some priorities, and it was kind of the first time. I mean, I think he has been content previously to let Schumer and Pelosi take the lead. But he did lay out just a few days ago what his priorities would be for the next package. A lot of them have to do with getting the amount of PPE and testing in place. So actually fighting the virus, which is kind of the main thing you should do, because fighting the virus is protecting the economy.
Right.
And then he did call for unemployment to be extended and that no money should go to corporate interests. And I believe he opposed the liability release. So, there's something there, but, Biden's front porch candidacy doesn't necessarily peer above the horizon too often, and so I'm not surprised that you didn't hear about that.
Right? Yeah. There you go. That's the real issue. No real leaders going around here. Well, thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Always great to have you.
All right. Thanks very much.
See you later.
We'll have more Rising for you after this.